New camera, who dis? A7R Mark III. Let's get it. Hey, what's up? I'm Manfrotto Corey, and this channel is all about helping you take better photos. So if you're into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I try my best to put weekly videos. I say that, but I freaking fail damn, man. No, but for real, got big stuff planned ahead, and hoping I could just help more people. Also, anything I talk about in this video, links and show notes and more things like that will be in the description below. Also, feel free to leave comments as you watch this, and let's get into it. So as you can tell, as the excitement arises from up inside me, oh that's weird, up within me, that's weird too, whatever. So this morning I woke up to a text message from a friend who's also a photographer. His name is David Zhu. Follow him on Instagram, link it in the description. And he said, new studio camera. And then I went on Instagram and he tagged me in Sony Images picture of the A7R Mark III, which was announced, I don't know, sometime between the last 24 hours. And dude, come on. So I mean, most of you guys know, like I've just done a few videos on this channel, and I'm hoping to do more, but I'm an avid A7R Mark II shooter, and I've just learned to super love this camera. I actually like literally was just thinking about how far this camera has gotten me, and also just how far I think I could still go with this camera. And nonetheless, like there is, yes, like I talk about in my weddings video about this camera, where I really go in depth about like a high use day of this camera. But there are certain things that, you know, you always wish for, and like we all make compromises. Every time we buy a camera, you are making a compromise to another brand and what it offers, or another camera and what that offers. And it looks like Sony really did listen to their shooters, which I find is like a thing. Like Sony is a brand who actually cares about the consumer, and so they're listening to what their people who are already buying their stuff are saying. And so I think I want to break this down. I don't really have a huge, a legit plan on how this video is going to go, but I think I'm going to break it down in a few aspects. I'm going to break it down with like physical nature of the A7R Mark III, and then we can talk about just kind of like who's it for. Like, is it worth upgrading, or is it worth like buying instead of another Sony mirrorless camera? And then also I think it's definitely one to just talk briefly about its comparison to the A9, which is different in price and has a little bit of different capabilities and things like that. So let's talk about the physical nature of the camera. So like when Apple drops or does a keynote for the new phone coming out, you know, everybody's looking for like, what's the new physical aspect of this phone? And you know, the last few years with like the 6, 7, and now 8, fairly the same, and then they drop the 10, and it's like, it's so different in physical form. Obviously the internals are a little bit different, all that stuff. But I think in the same way, it looks like Sony has just kind of like came to a conclusion on like where their mirrorless cameras are going, and definitely it's the A9 body, and that looks like it's going to be carried throughout the next line of 7 series. So the 7 III, the 7S, and the A7R II, and that is super. I mean, like we're talking the joystick, we're talking the autofocus on button, the back button autofocus, which I use and I customize on this camera, the R2. We're talking about the record button. I would say though, the A9 does have the secondary dial, as you can see in this picture, as opposed to the R. But for the most part, we're still talking complete body change in regards to how it'll feel, and also obviously function. So I think in the physical nature, you could already see all this. I'm just making a video because I'm freaking excited, and there's probably other people's talks on it. I just was like, man, I'm gonna get my 2 cents up in this, because honestly, like you just really learn to be at one with the camera, and you know, like when it fixes themselves, or like when they come back with like with an improvement. I mean, we're again, like there's also the dual SD card slots, and like more than that, they added the SD UHD 2, so now we can do like these high continuous, which the camera will do 10 continuous images, silent mode, which you can't do in this, and the buffer speed will probably go away. I mean, I watched the little panel and they said that there is no buffering, which is cool. Obviously, if you have that upgraded SD card, Also touchscreen, which is cool. I mean, I don't know if I'll use that so much. Maybe I will. A lot of people who buy cameras with touchscreens tend to use it. And then we also got USB-C Type-C, which, I mean, typically when I do most of my shoots just out in the field or like in the city or something like that. So I don't typically do too much, or ever. I've never done like to the laptop shoot, but that is cool. And that also, because it's USB-C, it's probably going to be instantaneous. It's super quick. No, again, no buffer. 399 point autofocus system, kind of going on the insides now. I mean, like, what is cool is even on the B&H website, they really, like, they're pushing the video aspect of things too. Like, now this camera shoots S-Log3, improved noise handling, much quality in full frame mode. Also the ability, it's UHD 4K video, so it'll actually shoot 4K. So like these, you know, like the S and the S2 and the R2, they shoot 4K. And also the A6500, which I'm shooting this on, so they shoot 4K, but it's not true 4K because it doesn't fully use the sensor. And so now these cameras are going to shoot full 4K, and there is a difference. When I got the A9 to test out a few weeks ago, I'll link to that video. The video quality was just, it's so crisp. Like, you're talking super sharp compared to the 4K on the R, on at least my R2. And so like video, it's gonna be a great video camera nonetheless. Like, I do think that like they are pushing video, but where they probably didn't take into consideration too much, because they probably want to still sell the S3 when it comes out, is the high frame rates. So I'm pretty sure that the S2 will have, you know, like 120 and 1080 possibly, and maybe 60 frames in 4K. And I would say if they didn't, that would kind of be an issue. But nonetheless, this will be an awesome video camera, and which this already is. However, you're talking improved autofocus for video, not to mention even obviously for photos. Like the example they showed on their video was like an eagle, and it was just moving with the eagle the whole time. And it's like, it's pretty impressive to be able to take now 42 megapixel images of something like that. And then, you know, we're talking like super zoom, and then be able to crop in and still retain a lot of detail. Yes, I think overall the ergonomics is gonna just be awesome. It's gonna be like, this will just be your favorite camera, and it'll things, the buttons are where they should be, like where your hands naturally fall. And I really experienced that with the A9. But I would definitely say the biggest thing, I think, and my favorite thing about the A9, which in comparison, I'll talk about it in just a second, is the custom menu feature. You know, I think Sony's going to implement this in all the other cameras that are coming out now, but we're talking about a menu that allows you to customly, or like to put in whatever you want. And a lot of times I go to my APC mode and I shoot crop a lot of times, especially in low light. It helps with some noise. I format my card a lot. I change my video settings a lot. I change my I change my volume settings for mics, or like shotgun mics. There's just so much that like are in the menu system of it that I like now that we can just put it on one menu, which is gonna up your workflow, is gonna up your time, which we're all here trying to buy some time, you know what I'm saying? We all want time on our hands. Also, and so in comparison to the A9, so I guess, like, I know I'm going all over the place, but hey, this is just like an announcement video. So the difference in the A9 and the R3, and why I think the R3 is like a no-brainer, is the same reason why I didn't feel the nudge to buy the A9 in the first place. And yes, it's all pretty pennies. Like, they all cost money, and we all, in like the grand scheme of technology, it's so hard nowadays to justify. Because like, what, like in 2-3 years, are you gonna just drop the, you know, like the R4? What, like, I just bought this one, bruh. But I mean, we have to justify a lot of times, like, if it increases time, I think like it can always help. However, then we talk about like specs in general, and you know, I think the biggest thing on why I typically won't go for the A9 versus the R3, and why, like, I think this morning I was just like, yes, it was because the dynamic range. I think if the R2, or you know, or the R3, whatever, but if the R series of cameras is known for one thing, I don't think it should be the megapixels. I don't think it should be the autofocus. I don't think it should be its ability to shoot like good video, and also like the picture profiles. it should be the dynamic range. Like, we're talking when we shoot, and cameras in general, it's all about lighting. So in any way, shape or form, are you shooting to use light or to expose light or whatever, that we want to retain detail as much as possible when we lack control of lighting. And you know, I think of like wedding photography. Like, how many times have you been in a wedding venue where like one aspect, let's say the altar or the stage or whatever, is super lit up, and then the crowd space is super dark? You know, like having to expose for that to be able to pull up the shadows so like you can get a more even balance. Like the R2 is awesome when it comes to dynamic range. I actually really did notice that with the A9 when I was shooting with it. I noticed that when I was messing with the highlights and shadows, the responsiveness and its ability to like show detail and actually like really show up as far as shadows go, or really show off when you bring down the highlights, detail in the skies or something, that the R just like superseded that. So now we're talking an upgraded physical nature with the best, I believe, best high dynamic range camera. It's really hard to beat. And then a few other things that I think are just like obvious things that, you know, Sony should have included is definitely the longer battery life. It's gonna use that new battery that Sony's been having, which I am kind of bummed because I do have like 5 of them, 6 of them, but I have 5 or 6 of them. Like, what the frick? So I think, you know, when I'm gonna sell this R2 eventually, maybe sometime during the holiday season, and I'm gonna sell those batteries, but now I only have to own just a couple batteries. You know, I was watching that panel earlier this morning on BNC Photo, or on Sony's website, and they, you know, and they were saying how like it really went like a full day of mixture of shooting video and photos, and so I'm pretty excited about being able to just not have to even worry about that can now be in the back of my mind, as well as just the ability to shoot the high continuous and silent. You know, I shoot silent a lot because I do a lot of I shoot a lot in church, and also like just events in general where you just don't want to have a click going off all the time. And so I'm pretty excited about the silent continuous, and just overall that, you know, the R2 isn't a fully mirrorless camera. You know, there is a shutter there is a mechanical nature that has to happen in the body of these cameras. And when the A9 dropped, Sony introduced a fully mirrorless camera, in the sense that there is no motion, like nothing happens inside the camera when you actually take a picture. And so the R2 will now have that same thing where it's a fully mirrorless, it's a full mirrorless camera, fully electronic and no mechanical nature to it, which also probably gives it more of a lifespan, which I'm also pretty excited about. So with that being said, I do have a question for you, and that is, are you more led to now buy a Sony camera? Like, I think with the R2 coming out, a lot of the photo cameras are gonna, prices are gonna go down, and I'm thinking like the A7 II, obviously the R2, the price already went down on like eBay and stuff, and I think probably like some other like the 6500 is gonna go down. And so, are you inclined to still buy this camera, or what do you think? Like, what the heck, man? Like, let me know. And if you got any questions, I'm all about answering those questions, and also starting just cool conversation on here. So I appreciate you checking out the video. Subscribe, and if you got any value, hit that like button. I'll be putting out more videos, different kinds of content, all in regards to like photography, freelancing, and all that stuff. Just trying to kind of figure a way around this, kind of actually doing my office. Sorry, I shot in the kitchen, but nonetheless, thank you for checking it out. I appreciate your time. I hope to see you in the next video, and I need some chapstick. Peace out.